So I wasn't going to play that, but Gabbo's already talking in the comments about how it's no longer Christmas in July; it's Christmas in August. So I figured I'd play our Christmas in July jingle. What's going on, everybody? Hey, Charlie here. It's Christmas on Crest. I got a very, very, very special guest with us. We got Fred freaking Christmas Zimmerman here with us from Christmas Light Contractors. What's going on, Fred?
Hey, how's it going? Hey, is there any way you could I send this out to my group to a link, or if you send me a link, I'll send it out. But yeah, really super stoked that you guys actually know way more about lights than I probably do. A lot of you guys that are watching this. So even though a lot of people know me for Christmas lights, like the guys that do light shows, they know a lot more about lights than I do.
Yeah, but you're the Hallmark movie guy. We're going to talk about that today too. So let's real quick. Let's catch up to do a bit of a roll call. We got Steve tuned in and said, "Let's go." We got Braden saying first one. We got Gabbo tuning in from Mexico. What's going on, Gabbo? Saying, yeah, Christmas in August. We got Giatano. Giatano has a question. I'm going to go a little bit out of order, ask his question first because he won't be here all day today. We got Josh's Light saying, hey. We got our reigning champion, Terry Mangum. I always get that wrong, Terry. What's going on? We got great Christmas light fight guy himself. The second to most recent champion. We got Brian. What's going on, Brian? Wow. Tuning in from New Zealand, we got Pepsi Kiwi Christmas. What's going on, Pep? We got Chad tuning in. I'm just here finishing up a meeting. I may miss the first part. That's okay. We got you. We're going to have a great time today. We got Monty tuning in. What's going on, Monty? Got Ben tuning in. LOLUO. Lights up on Orchard. What's going up? Lighting up Orchard. We got Ben. Everyone, we got Eddie. Eddie's won some stuff recently, and I don't know you, but Willie in KC. What's up, Willie? A fellow, maybe Kansas, possible Missourian. So, Fred, for the folks that don't know you, can you tell us who you are and what you do?
So, I'm Fred Zimmerman. I'm a co-owner of Christmas Light Contractors. We actually are a network of installers that install Christmas lights professionally. We do commercial, residential, primarily residential, and then we get lasted into some big commercial projects around the country, sometimes just for support. But I think we have a group of over 9,000 installers that we kind of teach and instruct how to install lights and do it for a living. So if people laugh at me all the time, sometimes I go to the airport because I'm going to a conference or something, and everyone looks at our shirts everywhere we go because it's Christmas lights year round for us.
Oh, yeah, you have a great shirt that stands out. So if you folks have not gone to, let's get this out of the way real quickly. So folks who don't have time, they got to get in here and rush out. Where can they find you on social media, your website? Where can they find you at?
So Christmas Light Contractors, we have a YouTube channel. Our biggest following is on TikTok, and then we also have a big following on Facebook. We have a private group where only installers can go. We don't want homeowners asking how to hang lights on their house. I'm not trying to throw stones. I know you have some homeowners that go way out of their way and actually know more about lights than I do. But in general, we try to teach people how to hang them professionally for a living.
So some things we're going to talk about today is we're talking about how to make money. We're going to talk about Hallmark movies because you've decorated over 10. We're going to talk about products. We're going to talk about a bunch of different stuff here. But I do have a question from Giatano. He's got a question saying he found his thing is he wants that fake snow you guys put in movies. He found a company in Atlanta that does it, but he wants real fake snow, a blanket of snow in his yard. What do you recommend?
Well, the guys that actually, so I'm not actually the one that puts it down. They bring in, usually it's special effects team that comes in and they roll down white cotton, like rolls of white cotton across the whole scene. And they put it over top of the trees and the bushes and everything. And then right before the show starts, they actually have a paper grinder and it takes big blocks of white paper and it grinds it and shoots it in the air. And it actually misses it a tiny bit. And so when the actors are walking on it, it leaves their footprints and stuff behind it. So in between scenes, they're going out there and grinding up more paper and spraying it. Now, it's not like the Wizard of Oz. I'm sure you heard of the fake snow in that one.
Have you heard of that? Tell me about it.
Okay, the fake snow in the Wizard of Oz was actually asbestos, like fiber asbestos. They would grind it up and shoot it in the air. So, dude, it works at least for the effect. But yeah, you won't live very long afterwards. But at least you'll have
Well, that and the Tin Man, the first Tin Man was the guy who played Jed Clampett in Beverly Hillbillies, but they painted him in lead painting, so he went to the hospital because he almost died.
Wow.
Yeah, then they had to find a quick replacement for him. Yeah.
So, yeah, so white cotton. I mean, literally, they'll have just it's. I think they use it almost for roofing too, or they use it for underlayment on like some ground cover. But yeah,
Okay.
you can. I think you can find it online. It's like 4 foot wide rolls of white cotton, and they roll it down. Um, it
And
looks a lot like tar paper, only it's white.
okay, so for I have a gingerbread Santa Claus house now. It used to be a gingerbread house, but I'll put white roofing paper on the top of it to give the illusion there's snow on top of it.
Yeah, and then they put fabric clips down into it like you would your normal landscape fabric when you're
Okay.
putting it under mulch and stuff.
So tell us, how did you get started in the Christmas light industry? We all want to know.
So I got started the wrong way if you're trying to do it professionally, but I was just doing it as kind of a labor of love. Not to the extent that most of you guys are watching this, but I was trying to make a buck on the side. I was right out of college. I was dating my wife, and my friend. I was a roofer, so I worked for a company. We traveled the country doing roofing, but also I was mostly primarily based out of Indiana. And one of my roofing friends had been doing this for 10 years before I met him. And he's like, here, I'll show you what roofers do in the winter for an extra buck. And so he had a flyer on his computer, and he had had this for probably 10 years before I met him. But it's like $1 a foot for 1-story houses and $2 a foot for 2-story house. And that's like how it started. We were passing them out, knocking on doors. And then I went online to see if maybe someone else had done this. And I ran into some guys down in Texas, and they were doing this for a living. And back then they would charge like $3 a foot, which I went back to my friend and I was like, hey, there's guys that do this. Do you know this is actual business? And I was like, and they charge $3 a foot. And he's like, you can't charge. That's robbery. You can't. People will never pay like that. You can't take people's Christmas light money from them like that. And that's how it started. I moved my price up to $3 a foot, and found out that guy actually came to me later on and said, I was looking at this for like the last couple of years as a way to make a little Christmas cash, and you turn it into a business.
And you recently, on your YouTube channel, you recently interviewed a college gentleman who is making a great living hanging Christmas lights, right?
Yeah, this is one of the last interviews we did. Actually, he bought a starter pack from us. So we have it's like a business in a box. Like we sell starter packs, like 1,000-foot roll of lights and 1,000 light bulbs and 1,000 clips, but it gives you enough lights for about an average 5 houses. So the average roof line ends up being 175 to 200 feet if you're just doing the front. But we call it business in the box. He bought it, and he actually lived in the same city as me. And he's a college student and said, hey, I'm going to deliver this to you. But if you want some real experience hanging lights, why don't you just work for me for a couple weeks, and then you can moonlight on the side. I'll really show you the ropes. So he ended up working for me for probably 2 or 3 weeks, and then he just started disappearing all the time. Well, he was a full-time college student, so I didn't know his schedule. So I think that year he said he made 40,000 because that's why he disappeared. He was going to college.
Yeah.
He's working for me a little bit, and then his own jobs. He's putting up yard signs all over the city with his phone number on it that he hangs Christmas lights. And he did very well. Well, I just interviewed him like 2 or 3 weeks ago, and he ended up dropping out of. So he was in college last year studying accounting, and I was blown away. I had no idea his business took off this, but he ended up doing $250,000 his second year in business. 250,000. Now that's not what he really made because you have to pay for supplies.
Right.
Christmas lights ends up costing quite a bit when you're putting that much up. But yeah, he said he had to drop out of college. I think in November he decided to drop out because he's getting so much work for Christmas lights. They decided either he could finish his semester and back off and stop taking on jobs, or he could keep booking jobs and drop out of school. So he dropped out, and he's a career installer now.
Very cool for him. And getting started out in college, it's fun. You don't know what you want to do sometimes, and you can go back and do online classes or whatever. I don't know. But yeah, that's freaking neat. You make a living hanging Christmas lights. It's awesome. One thing that I am kind of pushing in the industry right now is I want more folks to get YouTube channels for Christmas lights. And you got a great one. What inspired you to start the YouTube channel to the masses?
Well, and I'm sure a lot of people that are watching this are going to have the same struggle I did. I was watching other people, and I'd watch their YouTube channels, and I just felt like, man, these guys are so smart. They know way more than me. Like, no one wants to listen to me. Like, I'm just a guy that installs lights. So I've been installing lights for, I think this is my 15th year. And So there's always more to learn. You're never going to know everything. And the more you know, the more you realize that you don't know. And that's just how the evolution of Christmas lights works. So, but here I was watching people and I was teaching people I've taught hundreds of people how to install lights. And a lot of my biggest competitors were people that used to be my employees in my own city. Like they say, Indianapolis is just like, there's installers everywhere because I've created so many that used to work for me and started their own companies. But uh, so where was I going with that? I forget. I'm getting older.
Oh no, you're good. Just what inspired you to start the YouTube channel? And
okay, so here I was, and these guys, I'd started all these people like trying to install lights, and I'd watch other people. Well, then I saw some guys that knew barely anything, and everyone was talking about them like, wow, these guys are like legends, like they know all this stuff about Christmas lights. So I was like watching their stuff. I was like, I know more than these guys. And so then one of these guys actually he sold his company. He owned a Christmas light company, but he sold it. So he actually called me and says, hey, can I ride along with you and start installing lights with you for a couple weeks this year, or at least a couple times? I was like, sure, but like you already have a YouTube channel. Why would you? He's like, well, I sold my business and I can't really. Before I used to film myself while I was installing, but I need someone to ride along with and try to video them. So he came out and rode with me, and I was like, look, I'm not trying to cause offense, but I'm not trying to like be. But to honestly, everyone's talking about you like you're like a legend. Like everyone, like you got to watch his videos. You got to watch the videos. And when I watch your videos, sometimes I literally get the impression that you just learned something and you turn around and tell it to the camera. He's like, that's exactly what I do. Because he goes, the thing is, when you learn something, you will never be in that moment in life again where you can put yourself back on the place where you didn't understand something before. And so that the teaching moment is right there. You turn around, you quick make a video. And now every time that I'm teaching one of my employees something, like if we're out doing an install, and like I got to show them how to put lights on a bush, I'll be showing them. And I'm like, I'm going to make this video. I was like, here, hold my camera. I'm going to show you how I'm installing lights in this tree. So you're going to learn. But I also know that if you don't know how to do it, there's probably 1,000 other people that don't know how to do it. And so that's what started my whole YouTube channel is I just started realizing, and he even told me, this guy that was doing a ride along with me, he's like, Fred, anyone that's watching my YouTube videos, they don't know anything about Christmas lights. That's why they're going on YouTube to learn how to hang lights. All you got to do is know more than the people that are watching you. So he's like, all these people that make fun of me, like I'm not making the videos for them anyways. I'm making it for more people that are just trying to learn how.
And that is the perfect answers. And I get his point. You're never quite as excited as you were that first time. Like your buddies with Stacey Kennedy, the viewers know he was here a couple weeks ago.
Oh yeah, he's a great guy. Yep.
And he spent the weekend here. We're looking at all his products, but he held one back. And during the live, he shows me this new product. It's a permanent thing on a light. It attaches to your C7, C9. I'm like, oh, that's freaking perfect. No more screwing into your window well, or no more screwing into your wood. Or however, I forget what it was now, but I'm like, that blew my mind. That solves a lot of problems for folks with window, when it'll outline their window, but it always looks janky and it's never a perfect outline. I'm like, that's cool. You're never as excited as that first time. I agree. What was that guy's name?
I don't want to say. I can't.
Oh, okay.
But he's a really good guy. If you're on YouTube, you'll run across him. He's got one of the biggest channels for Christmas lights. He's a really good guy. But so he was the one that really encouraged me. He's like, look, just start making video. You know more than most of the people that you're teaching. So, and you actually will learn. You actually learn more by teaching other people than you actually. You understand it better when people start asking you questions. You got to explain why you're doing what you're doing. So I'm telling you, most people that are watching this video that are doing light shows on their house, you know more than most of the people that install lights professionally. I'm telling you, that's if you are able to do light shows synced to music, you know far more than most any Christmas light installer that even runs a company.
One thing, and maybe you're probably the closest to it. I'm waiting for somebody to come out with a genius idea of doing a year-round light show, what you do, or year-round YouTube show, what you do, that teaches people how to make money. I think you're the leader in that right now. There's a few others out there that we won't name, but I think you're the one that's doing consistent videos out there, and you teach people how to make money, and you teach them how to put it up. You're doing both at the same time.
So, and here's what I actually had to learn. The biggest challenge is faith. Okay. So
I was gonna go. You're good.
Okay, so I honestly, when you start running a Christmas light company, it is different than I was obsessed with making my installs look perfect. I just wanted the perfect install. Me and my wife, like we ran our company for probably the first 10 years, and she was the best tree person, still is probably the best tree person that's ever worked for me. She would do trees like 25 feet tall with a pole. We'd have college students, and she would do like, we'd be out in the cold. It'd be like 30 degrees out, and she would do 4 trees, look absolutely spectacular. And I would do like 2, and the college students would do like 1. And then she would tear my lights down and redo them. It's like, you can't charge customers money for that. But everything was always perfect. And honestly, as I started to realize how to run a business, you can't have the hallmark like looking house for every single house. In like customers are not going to pay for that. Some customers will, but you just have to have a basic package that most homeowners, they just want the roof and maybe a wreath. And that's what, if you're trying to run a business, that's what I had to get out of, trying to go like all spectacular, because it's really hard to charge customers what you're really worth to go all out like that. But they just scale back. And if they want the works, I'll do it, but I'm going to charge a lot more than my basic installs now.
Right. And that's a fantastic point. I had not thought about that. So one of the big, what are some of the challenges that you face? And what I'm hearing you saying is, most folks aren't like us that are in this chat today, where we do large scale animated Christmas light shows or different tech. They want their roof done, they want a wreath on, and that's kind of it, right?
Right. In the basic, so yeah, roof and wreaths. I mean, the average person's, I mean, that we're in the group that we teach people to try to charge about $6 to $8 a foot. Well, the average roof line across America, I don't know why, but it ends up being somewhere between 175 to 200 feet for the front of the roof. And that's not doing ridges. That's just the basic front roof line. Wow. And people are charging $500, $800, and it takes them 2 hours to do the install just along the roof. Now, when you start like doing trees and candy cane and people's pillars and stuff, that's where the time starts getting involved. But if you're just doing a roof line and you're not scared of ladders, like the fastest way, you just go in there, quick slap up some lights on the roof, and the customer's happy with that. And to be honest, most of them don't want to pay more than, if you're charging $500 a house, you'll have no shortage of work. People will be coming to you left and right, trying to get their lights installed for $500, which is for the average person a lot of money. For the average college student, that's a good paycheck.
Yep. So when they come to you and like, hey, hang lights on my house, they own the lights and you store them. Is that correct? That's how they do it in Wichita. I don't know how you folks do it.
Well, so what I advocate is we're more of a full service. So we maintain the lights. They can change the colors, whatever they want every year. If something goes out, they call us, so we'll come and fix them. There are lights. So we basically put out, it's a labor, it's a service. We provide the service. We put the lights up, and then we come back, we take them down in January. And then the next year we'll give them a discount if they'll let us put it up a little bit earlier. But I try to own the lights because especially even some guys, there's different business models. Some guys will rent them out. Other guys will sell them like for $10 a foot the first year and then reinstall them for $4 or $5 a foot the next year. The only issue I have with that is even people that sell the lights to the customer, because you custom cut them to their house. So it's real easy the next year to put them up, but like it takes half the time that the first year did. But the issue is, even if you let the customer buy the lights from you, I would still highly recommend you store the customer's lights, because the next year, if you schedule to do their install and their lights are in their basement like 2 or 3 times in a row when you go over there and they're not home. Yep. So if you keep the lights in your shop or your storage unit, whatever you want to put, I started in my landlord's basement for the first 3 years. I rented out, started with one room to her whole basement, storing customers' lights, and I'd charge $500 a year to store them there. We would, now we have a big warehouse, but we would just, I keep the people's lights because I want to make sure if they're scheduled to the install, if I'm driving to that part of the city, I want to do 2 or 3 installs in a day. So I don't want to have to come back another day because they don't put their lights out.
And they probably didn't take them down as good as we would. They might be tangled.
Exactly.
Rats have gotten to them, squirrels, who knows?
Okay, so do not do this. I am like the classic example of how not to start a Christmas light business. But actually, I went on Groupon. I thought it was a brilliant idea. They called me and told me, well, so what you can do is Groupon will pay you. They put the money directly in your account. They advertise it out to their community, the local area. Yeah. And for $99, or I think it might have did $149, we would install a customer's lights for $149 on their house. Or for 2-story, I think it was $249. I can't remember the exact numbers anymore, but I thought it was like, great. So I sold these customers and they pay you 90% up front. Groupon pays you 90% up front after the deal's done. And so I got a list of customers. I already had the money put in my account, and they hold back 10% to make sure you do all the jobs.
Right.
Well, when I got there is so many variations of Christmas lights. You cannot master them all. It's impossible. There's always new ones coming out. And so the customer would come out with either these brand new lights that had some weird nuance that I'd never seen before. And you're sitting there trying to read the manual, trying to figure it out. Or they have a pile of lights that they've dug out that they weren't able to fix in previous years themselves. And now they want you, they think that's part of what they paid for. The $149 to hang them on their lights. They think you're going to untangle them and make them work again, which a lot of LEDs, they're not working. And if a light goes out, they're done. Especially if you buy them from the big box store. But that was the way that I was like trial by fire. That's how I started my Christmas light business. It took me almost 2 years to figure out that is not the right way to start. If you ever start a Christmas light business, do not install the customer's light. Make sure that you bring your own material, your own supplies, and that you have professional stuff. You can do an install. I mean, you can do an install in 2 or 3 hours pretty easily, I mean, in half a day if you're using professional grade equipment. If you're using big box store stuff with the wrong kinds of clips, you could be there all day long. The clips are falling off every time you're climbing up the ladder. They're falling off the light, and it is a night and day difference between having professional stuff versus homeowner provided equipment.
Yeah, untangling lights. I think we all have that story of untangling lights. Actually, I don't mind untangling lights. I find it cathartic. It's kind of a puzzle, but I don't want to do it more than like once every 3 freaking years. Because it all depends on. I always say, this is future Charlie's problem. He can untangle this. Like, you don't want that, but it's a business. So, of all the projects you worked on in 15 years, what are some of the most memorable projects you've worked on?
Oh, I mean, there's honestly some of the Hallmark movies. They were really, really awesome. I'm telling you, if Hallmark will call you if you have a website up for Christmas lights. What they do is they try to run under the radar. I don't want to say they try to run an illegal operation, but they kind of very, very close. What they actually open up an LLC like the day before they show up to town or something like this, and they don't want anyone knowing they're showing up. But they will because they're using subcontractors, but they'll come and they'll open up the name of the company LLC, and then they'll hire local contractors to quick throw up the lights. And they like my very first, I guess that's my most memorable, the very first Hallmark movie I did. I got a call. So me and my wife were watching Hallmark for Christmas because we put up the lights, and every year so we take a break and we go home for the holidays. And so I'm there for 4 or 5 days, and my mom always puts us on the Hallmark Channel. We just sit there and watch it all the time in the background and watch all these Christmas specials. And me and my wife was like, man, a lot of these movies, sometimes they have good lights, but a lot of them, they're not very good at all. Imagine if we ever got hired by Hallmark to put up lights. And we're like, I don't even know how you go about that. Well, then like 2 months later, I think in March or something, we get a phone call from a guy that says he's a Hallmark producer, and he wants to meet me at a library to give an estimate to put Christmas lights on. I was like, okay. So I'm talking to my wife. I was like, I think a Hallmark movie wants to give an estimate. She's like, okay. And we're all excited, but we didn't know for sure. And then like on my way there, like an hour later, I get 2 separate people call and say they're producers for Hallmark. Like one's an art producer, one's another set producer. I don't know. They all got different titles. The arts director. And they all say they're producers for Hallmark, and they're saying, we need you to meet here. And so we get there and we give them an estimate. Now we want the job, so we give them a really cheap price. But at the end, they're like, man, this is really expensive, because they're used to putting up the light. They got their own set crews that they fly in, and they want to use their own guys because they're really cheap. I mean, remember, Hallmark movies are low budget films. Well, they're like, we want you to do this, but that's just really blowing our budget. So we cut back the price and we did it. Well, that's how it started. And I was like, the thing is, I could have given you a better price, but I'm literally like overnighting material to do this install. And I have a ton of it in my other warehouse, but it would take me almost a bunch of hours to go get it right now. I wish you guys would give me a little bit more notice and I could give you a better price, but I'm having to buy all this. They want incandescent. The biggest thing about Hallmark, they want incandescent. They do not like LED. They don't film the same way. So I was like, I gotta buy all this stuff brand new. And so that's adding to the cost. And so I was like, I wish they would just give me a little heads up. And the people just turn around and says, welcome to Hollywood. And that's pretty much how it goes. Anytime you work for a Hallmark, they, well, at least my experience, it's like last minute. They call you at the very last minute because they're trying to actually do the scene themselves. And they realize they just don't have enough manpower. So they'll quick call you, just pinch hit for them. And it's always, you're always charging more than what they want to pay. And they try to knock you down in price. And then when we be done, they're like, this is exactly what we wanted for years. But look, you're blowing our budget. Is there any way that you could do the next thing just a little bit cheaper? And so, but it's a labor of love. It really is awesome when you see the final product and just how spectacular what they do behind the scenes and they edit it and they put it online or put it out. It makes your work look even better than what you really do.
Monty's asking, what are some of the Hallmark movies you've worked on? Do you remember some of the names?
Okay, so that's
photos. Let me show you some photos here real quick. Go ahead.
So I think Holiday for Heroes was the first one I did. That one right there is what is that? Last Stop Christmas, I think. That one was they had the guy from Back for the Future, that's mad scientist there. And they would keep going back through time to see different scenes in Christmas till the guy would get it right. And he finally made the right decision to marry the woman of his dreams. Imagine that for a Hallmark movie. But that is probably my very favorite scene we've ever done. That one he did there. And the actual set producer, when he was on there, was saying, this is the Hallmark scene. This is this trademark Hallmark scene. Or the classic Hallmark scene. I was like, yeah, that is our picture. They won't give me their pictures. So, so their cameras make it look even better.
Where's this one at?
That is the same movie. That's what is that? Next Stop Christmas. That was the one with the Lloyd's. That one is actually that fire department came to, because that is a 150-year-old house, and that is all incandescent you're seeing there. So we had to put a wall of lights around the whole property. And this house is like 150 years old. So it's like a landmark in the community. And so they came in and they rented out the property. Well, I set up all the lights and I had all them broken into separate circuits, and I measured how many amps. Well, so okay, here's 8 amps here, here's 8 amps here. And I labeled them all. Well, when I was turning over, they don't want you there when they're filming. They don't want you anywhere around. Okay. So I was like, at least can I go through a walkthrough when you guys fire everything up? Because we had never powered it. The homeowner kept trying to plug everything in. I was like, please resist. Do not plug in everything. You will burn your house down. There is no way your house can support this many lights. I have it broken down. They're going to have to provide extra electricity. Just please do not. So the homeowner never plugged them in. We would plug in one portion at a time at night so they could see them. The homeowner just loved it. But so when I was turning it over to the set crew, they have their own electricians, these engineers, and they think they know everything. And I was trying to explain, it's like, so this, I've broken it down. I put tape around all the plugs wherever we have 10 and 12 amp circuits. So please, and I was trying to explain, they're like, I was like, I'm the one that wired this whole thing. I think you should listen just a little. I understand, electricity, you're probably an electrical engineer, but I know how I put this thing together. So please, and they would not let me. I was like, okay. So then I came back at night because I just wanted to take a picture of the whole thing lit up because I'd never seen it lit up. When we got there, the fire department was there. I don't even know how this is possible. The transformer across the street literally blew up because they were drawing, and they blew 2 circuits in the house because they literally plugged. So what it was is the producer, when he was there, they have all these low sound generators that they put, and they plug everything in, but they still make some sound. So the producer's like, cut the sound, just plug it into the house. That is like the worst thing to do on an old house. So they ended up burning out 2 circuits in the house. They had to rewire that part of the house. And anyways, it's funny now when you look back, it was pretty dangerous at the time.
Yeah, that reminds me. A few years back, I thought I need to do a video about Christmas math, because there actually is math when it goes to amperage and everything. It reminds me I need to do something like that. Where's this movie from? Where's this picture from?
That is also from Next Stop Christmas. So to be honest, we went all out for that movie. They didn't pay us that well. And I was actually telling my wife in between scenes, is like, why you keep, because she's usually the one yelling at me for doing all this extra work for Hallmark and we not really charging them for it. Like we underbid the jobs because we just like being in the movies. So, but my wife's like, okay, we did one scene. That's all we want out of this movie. Why? She always yells at me, like when I give them another deal on another scene. It's like, we can still have our name in the credits. That's enough. That's all we want anyways. But this one, every single scene, she went all out, and we didn't really charge them even close to what we normally charge customers. And I was like, well, I don't understand why you're doing this. Like I asked my wife, like you were going so far above and beyond. You usually get mad at me, but she just loved the arts director of this one. They like really hit it off. And like she just bent over backwards for it. And we just went all out for that. That is probably the best movie we've ever done for Hallmark.
So I didn't even think about that, but that would be freaking legit awesome. So your name is in the credits, or your wife?
It is. It goes through so fast. You would have to like hit pause, like real quick. You got to hit pause.
I would hit pause.
Yeah, or you won't see it. Yeah.
Backtrack here a little bit. Catch up on comments here. Ben's wanting to know, how do you store the lights when you take them down? What type of containers, and how do you do that?
Okay, so this is how we started off, and I would recommend most people do the same thing. When we take them down, we put them in a bin and we put the customer's name on it. When you get a little bigger, you're going to find out some of the customers don't come back. So you're sitting there, especially if you're working out of a storage unit or your landlord's basement. Like space is very difficult, so you're trying to move around the boxes like playing Tetris, trying to stack them and then read the label on. So after a while, you realize some of these customers are never coming back. But by that time, you almost can't use their lights till the next year. So what we started to do is if everything is warm white on the house, we will actually throw. So we put them in totes, like the black totes with the yellow lids. And you can usually put about one average house in a tote. But the thing is, they get brittle after about 2 years and they start cracking apart. So you're going to have to change them out like every 2 or 3 years. So this is what we do now with tree lights, mini lights. We put them in big garbage cans like Rubbermaids, especially in commercial work, because those are designed to stand the test of time and they are really battle proven. They'll last for 5-6 years, and they have big handles so you can carry them around. And not have to worry about them breaking, because they're designed to be rugged because they have to carry trash. That's why they were built. So if they're bigger jobs, I really do like the garbage cans. And then they stack real easy because you put about, I think, 8 garbage cans down, and then you put plywood on top of it. And then you stack another garbage cans. You can put plywood again. You can do 3 levels high that way.
That kind of answers Giatano's questions. What happens when you cut the lights for a certain house and they don't come back? What do you do with the pre-cut lights?
So I just next. And we actually chop up their material and put it on another customer's house. Now, so LEDs don't burn out. So when I first started off, it was incandescent. Everything was incandescent. So it wasn't a big a deal. You had to change out people's lights like every 2 years. But now in the LED days, lights don't really burn out. What they do is they dim down every year. And so it's more your own moral ethics. At what point is it getting too dim? So LEDs have a lifespan on them. And so every time you turn them on, they actually get a little dimmer than the time before. So after about 5 or 6 years, you probably should change them out. Because if you put a brand new light bulb next to the old one, because one burns out or gets crushed or something, you will see a huge difference between the brand new light and the ones that are 5 and 6 years old.
So yeah, I agree with you. We switched from incandescent to LEDs 7 years ago, maybe. But we would have brownout after brownout after brownout at the house. I have a wood shop that has the same amount of power that my house does. So every year, my cousin, awesome, shout out to Darren Ensign, comes over and removes that power from the wood shop and puts it out to my front yard, and it powers the entire light show. 100 amp light show. Awesome.
So back in the incandescent days, we would definitely have customers call electricians and put separate boxes for us, because when you're doing incandescent, you could really go through 20 to 40 amps pretty quick, especially on a bigger house. So we'd have them, hey, you need to get an electrician out here, put its own separate circuit for the Christmas lights. But since LEDs, at first LEDs used to flicker, they didn't look very good, but now they're actually brighter than incandescent, and you can dim them down if you want. You can buy a dimmer. But yeah, you used to have to be an electrician, to know your electrical really good, to be a Christmas light installer 10 years ago. Now with LEDs, almost anyone, unless you're running a light show, you don't really have to understand electrical very much at all. But I was in light shows, you still need to know electrical, because LEDs, you still pull way too much electricity in a light show to just plug it.
For our light show, the math we need to know is we'll have 0.9 amps and we have 1.8 amps in our control box. And the math that comes important, because for fading, I found LEDs suck at fading between 1% and 20% on. So you really have to know that math to make sure your amps can control that special unique optical illusion.
So you understanding that is far more technical than anyone that's going to hang lights professionally on a house. They don't even know what you're talking about. Most of the guys that I train to install lights.
You got to look at the back of the box, or that tag they put on there, holiday time green lights. I can tell you is 0.006 amps. So you can put up to 10 strings on there and they'll fade just fine. So
Well, do you guys? So I carry an amp meter in my truck, so I can just plug it in and see what it actually is drawn from the outlet.
yeah, we have a sheet on our control box cabinet that has the math of what every channel can carry and how many lights usually go on that the previous year. So.
But how do you deal with so what I found is I can know my math on like the tree, like how many mini lights we have. Each one's half a 0.05 amps. We plug them in so I can get, but depending on how far away that is from the outlet, I almost have to use my amp meter to see, because it will actually double the amount of amps that it's actually pulling if you're like 100 feet away from your outlet.
Yep. And that's something that, see, I love it when we talk, because you always give me new ideas. So one thing that people probably don't realize is when you run in a Christmas light show, the longer the extension cord, the less power is actually going to get to your lights. So like before my tree came down, I think the biggest year I had 30,000 lights in the one tree, and I used 40 channels just for one tree. It's just dedicated to that, because you got to get all the effects right. But yeah, we keep track of it. Called Christmas math. That's how we came up with our whole three. You know, Christmas math. Gabo's asking, so wait, LEDs get dimmer every year?
Yes, they do. They have a expected life expectancy on them. I can't even remember. Every brand's a little different, but I think 50,000 hours is pretty normal. Is that right? 70,000.
Yeah, that's if they give you a 50,000, because most 25,000 is what I've seen. 20
Okay.
25,000. So, but the commercial, I have probably, I don't know, 10,000 commercial grade lights. And then that's a good question. Any pixel requests from the Hallmark movies yet?
No, I mean, I don't want to speak. I do not work for Hallmark. I am a subcontractor that has done sets for them. But I've done work for them in their movies. They are pretty anti RGB and anti LED. They just really constantly try to push you back to incandescent. And to be honest, I'm working with them less and less because they are able to digitally put lights in after the movie's done. So that started like 3 years ago. I noticed it through COVID. I did a lot of my movies during COVID for about a year or two. They went all out making movies. But towards the end of the second year, they started actually adding lights into what I was doing. And now when they hire me, it seems like I only do like what is like in direct line of sight of the camera. And I'll do that little area, but they're going to add all the lights on the buildings and stuff after. But they can't figure out how to add them in like when it's real close on the actor.
Yeah, LEDs suck to film. I'll tell you that right now. I have a bunch of nice camera equipment, and they suck to film. You got to get the aperture right. You got to get the frame shutter right. You got to get everything right for LEDs to actually pop on camera. It is a challenge.
Yeah, the thing is, so the first time, so I thought Hallmark was like crazy when the producer, when they were saying that they couldn't use my incandescent or they couldn't use my LEDs. I was like, these are professional grade. And so I was on, they said, well, they strobe. So I put on my camera, they're fine. Then they showed me on their cameras, like, look, this is what your lights look like on our camera. Their camera's much more faster, and they look like they literally are strobing.
Yep. All the time. Happens all the time. Yeah, I probably film my shows 5 times and maybe use one. That's why I don't put a bunch of my shows up on my YouTube channel. I'll put like one a year just because they usually suck. It's very hard unless you have like a $20,000 camera to make them look really good. And for what your conversation was about Hallmark can't figure it out perfectly either. So
yeah, it's what the lights. Unless you have really good lights that don't flicker very much, the camera picks it up.
So you do Hallmark as an independent contractor. They called you up. You work with them. What's something they get wrong? What's something they ask you like, let's not do that? Has it ever come up like, well, I guess the 125-year-old house or 150-year-old house would be one like, hey, don't plug them in.
Yeah, so they made the house mint afterwards. So I mean, they take care of anything if they do cause problems. But so like one of the first movies that we did for them, their locals here their local sets. You have to imagine the Hallmark does like holiday movies for 4th of July and family vacation stuff. They're not just Christmas like company. So their set crew has to be very well versed, like how to make scenes of like being at a garage sale or different stuff like that's year round stuff. Well, since all I do is Christmas lights, like we're professionals at it. So when they hired us, like one of the first movies they did, we charged them, I think like $1,400. I don't remember the exact dollar value, but it was like $1,400-$1,600 something to do lights on trees. And so they hired us. They're like, okay, because they were the thing is, their crew is usually way overworked. And when they finally bring you on, it's because they realize there's just not enough hours to finish it before. Like what they do is they'll rent certain buildings or certain city buildings, and they only have like 2 or 3 days to film that movie there, and they have to have everyone out. So when they're like realizing like, hey, film day's tomorrow and this stuff's still not done, they quick call you like, hey, can you pinch hit can you come in and help our set crew? So my wife charged them $1,400, and she came in and they're like, yeah, our guys are so overworked. There's no way we'll fit in our time. So she went in probably 2 hours, went out there with a pole just like this. So this is just like a painter's pole. This is actually a water fed pole that's it goes about 32 feet up. So she puts the lights right up here, and then they'll extend. Wait, I just pulled that part off, but they'll extend all the way up, and you can keep extending as far as you need up to 32 feet. And this thing won't bend really at all. And so she was just sitting there on the ground. They thought we were going to bring big extension ladders or maybe a bucket truck, whatever. But she's just sitting there with the wand, like 20 feet up in the air, making these spectacular looking trees. And the set crew was just sitting there watching, like, whoa, what? Like, why didn't we think of that? Well, what we saw then, one of the next movies we were at, they had us bid like the roof line and stuff. But then their guys are out there putting lights on the trees and stuff because they realize you can go buy a painter's pole at the store and buy a hook, buy a hook that you can put at the top and start to do 25-foot trees, and you don't need to pay someone $1,400. They felt embarrassed that my little wife they paid her $1,400 for 2 hours worth of work.
Now, if memory serves, you have a video on your YouTube page about that. Is that in Pro Tips? I think you have a video about that in Pro Tips, maybe.
Yeah, my wife, I think she has one that's gone pretty well of her deck. I mean, literally, my wife has done 25. She used to be able to even do about 30-foot tall trees, but I don't like to have her do any more than 20 foot because it's kind of mean for me. I have other guys who are college students, and they have no problem doing a 30-foot tall tree if you got like one of these professional poles. But Mr. Longarm, the yellow ones you buy in the store for like $40 or $50 for at like Home Depot, you can get a tree up to 25 feet tall. It's a little floppy. It moves around a lot. But yeah, my wife, because she could do 20-foot tall trees like nothing. Like in 20 minutes, she'd be done. $500, boom. It's what we charge homeowners, like $300, $400, $500. It takes her 10, 15 minutes to do the tree.
There's value in it. It looks spectacular, especially in that video. Gonna switch angles here on you a little bit. So before we went live, you told me about a new invention you came up with. I think is gonna blow everybody's minds here. Let's talk about your new clip invention.
So this might actually appeal to some of the people, even in your community, that don't install lights professionally. Wow. Because this, we actually own the patents on it. Well, us and Midland, we went partners with them. We actually Stacey Kennedy, we asked him first if he would patent it for us, but he's like, he didn't. It was a little bit. So we ended up going with Midland. And what is a suction cup clip? You put the C9 bulb. I don't have a C9 bulb with me, but as you see, the C9 bulb will go in here and you screw the bulb in. So it's stuck on the bulb forever. And then you put it up on the window just like that. And I don't know if you can see it, or just like this. And that's stuck there. And I've had them up on we just got them from China right now. But I've had some up on my kitchen window now for, I think, well over a month now. Now, you do have to clean the surface. So when we first tested them, we were not cleaning them. And so they would come off after a week or two. I was like, no, this is a disaster if they come off. But we found if you clean the surface and put them up, they stay up for weeks at a time or even months. So you could put a C9 bulb there and they screw in perfectly. Unfortunately, C7 is just a little bit too small and it actually will fall back out. It gets stuck by the wires behind it, but we like the lights to look perfectly straight. So we can outline all the windows. We got bags of them. So we are the only ones going to have them in the US this year. That's the arrangement we have with Midland. Next year, a lot of other suppliers will have it. But since we came up with the idea, they said, okay, well, we will give you exclusive rights to it this year. So you can buy it on our website, Christmas Light Contractors. And then we only have limited stock right now. We got a big shipment coming in about a month or two, but you can try them out if you want. But I think these are going to be the biggest clip of the year for us this year. It's just, this is super cool. We also have ones that have a magnet on the bottom too, a magnet on the bottom and a magnet on the side, which is the only magnetic clip that I know that the magnet is on the side of the bulb. So if you're putting it on along a metal roof or whatever, the bulbs can point forward as opposed to pointing up with the magnet on the bottom.
That's genius. So I have a couple magnetic clips from another commercial dealer, but I like that a lot better. That'd be awesome because you can control what
I
your
you
lights
know,
are
I have I didn't bring one with me, but yeah, they right here at the bottom here, there's a magnet so this same thing that they put a suction cup on the bottom, they have another one where they put a magnet, and they have another one where they put a magnet. And we actually have the patents on all of these. Just they said that we could put our names on. I was like, okay, why it's our idea. So we're like, okay, well,
Yes.
I don't know how that's ever going to benefit us, but at least this year we're the only ones with them. So I
You
can't
do a ton of work with them. I think like your last 4 or 5 videos have been about the type of their product. They have great products.
Well, the thing is, so Minlian has become the leader in the industry. The thing is, they've had hiccups along the way, but the thing is, they're the most responsive factory that we've worked with. So it wasn't by deep. We work with a lot of factories, but if you have an issue, if you have a complaint about the product, like a lot of factories get very defensive, and but Minlian, they will go around and fix whatever the market is. Like whatever the contractor is saying, if there's enough people saying that you need to fix this about this, you need to change this, they will do it. So another thing, I don't have a Minlian bulb with me. I should have, but they have a thing on the bottom of their bulb, a little piece of plastic that makes it so for years I start putting up Christmas lights in September. Well, so it's very well known in the Christmas light industry, when you put your lights up in September with almost every brand, the bulb will start to, with the hot and thaw, freeze thaw, or with it being so hot in the day and cold at night, the bulbs start to slightly unscrew. And so when everyone turns their lights on Thanksgiving weekend, you're getting all these calls. Hey, my lights are burnt out. It's like, these are LED, they're not burned out, but we'd have to climb up there and end up screwing in the light bulbs. Well, Minlian came up with a little rubber fitting on the bottom of their bulb that makes it so once it's in, it will not back out. So that's a game changer for us. We don't get a bunch of callbacks saying, hey, your light's unscrewed. I just heard another contractor complaining about how when everyone turns their lights on, a bunch of their lights unscrewed. Well, I know they use a different brand. I know why. If they switch to Minlian, their bulbs won't unscrew. So in light shows, definitely a lot of bulbs unscrew from the wire frames if you don't use Minlian.
Yeah, Gabbo was unfamiliar because they unscrew themselves.
Anyone that's done light shows for a while with wire frames, you know what I'm talking about. You'll have C7 bulbs all over the ground if you're running a light show, because they just have a habit of unscrewing over time. If they're not Minlian.
Ben's got the perfect question for you. You're the contractor. Let's get your definitive answer here. When you're gingerbread in a house, do you point the lights up towards the sky or down towards the audience?
I'm a candy guy. I like to have the lights point straight up with the Candy Ridge clip. Now, I will say sometimes it does look a little better. If you know that people can only see from one side of the road, I will sometimes put the bulbs on that one side, just because I know it actually from the street, it actually looks brighter to bounce them off the shingle. But if there's any way you can see the house from multiple angles, I like them straight up on the roof, almost always, all the time.
Yeah, that's how I do it. There's a couple. Might have a unique roof a little bit, and so there's one area that I'll lay them flat dome light towards the audience, towards the street. Otherwise, I have them up. So what, let me look at my questions here. What advice do you have for someone who's looking at making a living hanging Christmas lights this season? Or I guess any season.
So, okay. Now, most people that watch you are pretty well versed in, they do not understand, like they dwarf the average knowledge of a normal Christmas light show that I'm teaching. And so you guys will be scared thinking that, well, I don't know as much as this guy that runs a light show. It doesn't matter. Like, you know, much more than most people are running Christmas light install companies. So don't let your fear of what you don't know stop you. But the biggest thing is, if you are putting people in your community, we have multiple people in our group that ran light shows at their house, and they were doing it just for charity. They put a box out front, and they had no idea that there was actually a business doing it. And now they actually install lights professionally. And they're making a good living doing it. Like, I've known quite a few people have done that. But when you get into the world where you're installing for homeowners, you don't want to let them know that you can sync it to music and all this other stuff. I mean, you can tell them because you're going to be there and not make any money installing their lights, because you're going to be there for weeks, just like you were on your own house, and they're not going to be able to afford to really hire you where it's worth your time. But what you want to do is if you already have footage of your own house in a light show, put that in the community forums. hey, this is our house. What do you guys think about it? You cannot sell in forums. They will kick you out right away.
Yeah.
But he's like, hey, what do you guys think about my house? A little too early for Christmas, whatever. And as people are commenting, every once in a while, people are like, hey, could you do it at my house? And be like, oh, sure, whatever. Just, you can't come across like you're trying to sell your service. But you guys would have pictures of stuff, and you just got to, it's like a soft sell. You're going into the Facebook forums, like your community forum, your community, whatever, just letting people know that, hey, I know how to hang lights. And you're going to, by natural, people are going to ask you, hey, could you do my lights this year? My husband's too lazy or whatever.
Yeah, I get every year people will message me and say, hey, how much you charge to hang up lights on? I don't hang up lights. I hang up on my house. I start September 15th every year, and I get done on Black Friday, so I don't have time.
Yeah, but so if you just, I want you guys to get a clear picture in your mind. Your first year doing installs professionally on a customer's house, it may take you 4 hours to do an install if it's like $1,000 or less install if you're bidding it right. But I would be surprised after a year or two, you're not able to do $1,000 install in less than 2 hours. It just, like, you really get a very efficient. You understand where the lights are supposed to go, especially having it cut from the year before. You're just putting it back up. Now, don't work unsafely. It's not a race, but it just gets very methodical how you're doing your jobs.
AA's asking, how do you get into decorated Hallmark movies? I think step one is you have to be near where they're filming, and step two is they have to know to contact you, right?
Yeah, they contact, and there actually is every state has a list for the union where you can apply for the union, for the actors union, and as one of your services, and you'll get some work through that way also. But Hallmark doesn't always go through that channel. Sometimes they just show up and call the local installers. So if you have a website that people can find online, then that's how Hallmark will find you if they decide to shoot a film in your area.
Right. Alan's asking, he sees many landscape businesses are doing lights on the side during the off season. Is that who is your normal customer? Is it just people who want to make money, or is it landscape crews who come in and want to make money in the off season, or what?
So the typical person that comes to our trainings are going to be honestly mostly power washers lately, window washers, and gutter cleaners. But it used to be for decades, it was landscapers did Christmas lights on trees and bushes, and roofers did the roofs along the roof. But they come with some contraptions now, like the pitch hopper and the goat hook, which has allowed it for people to move around the roof a little easier. And you don't necessarily have to be a roofer anymore to get up there and feel safe. So because of that, it's opened the door for like window washers and power washers to get into Christmas lights. And the thing is, you have to understand, when people are hiring you for Christmas lights, this is not a necessity. You're not going charging grandma $500 to do her install, like she's got a 1-story, like 8 foot off the ground or a gutter line. Like most people are calling you that are hired. It's like they've moved from their starter house into their business is doing better, whatever, their doctors, lawyers, and they don't want to get a ladder out, and they don't want to. They have a McMansion sometimes now, and they don't want to be. They don't like 30-foot ladders and stuff. So, but you can be like me. If I see a job is really crazy, I just won't even bid on it. I was like, man, you know what? That's a big house, and I'm pretty booked right now, so may want to find someone else. Like, I like to have easy houses and just bid on the easy ones and let all the other contractors fight over the difficult ones, because that's kind of my policy. And I know that's not popular, but look, you have to be the one to put up the lights. So I want a bunch of easy houses to put lights on. Now, once you get enough customers, like, you need to have a minimum, like probably $400 or $500 at least to start. I have a $700 minimum that that's my polite way of telling people when they're calling me, ask me if I'll hang their lights. I will talk to them for a minute or two, or maybe 3. We'll chit chat, whatever. And hey, could you send me a photo of your house? And then I can work up an estimate that way. And then I'll draw on it. I'll do a mock-up. But and just to let you know, my average customer is around $1,500, and I do have a $700 minimum. And they'll be like, what did you say? I'm like, well, we start at $700, but my average customer is probably closer to $1,500. I'm just letting you know. And so like, oh, no problem. And then you're like, all right, because that lets them know that, hey, if you're not going out their house for less than $700, so you don't want to go and start hanging people's lights for $99. I mean, I don't want to tell you how to run your business, but you will not feel like it's worth it if you're doing it for $99.
That's a fantastic tidbit there. So you offer training as part of your course for Christmas light contractors on their website, christmaslightcontractors.com. What kind of training do you offer for folks who are getting into this? What specific courses?
No, christmaslightcontractorsusa.com or Christmas Light Contractors USA. Yeah. Sorry. That's actually a competitor's website, but we offer training.
Thank you.
No, that's fine. So we do offer training, and we just launched today our digital training. So you can actually, I think it's like $2.99, go through our training series, and it has like 89 videos of 5-minute videos, how to decorate lights, what to do, how to bid your jobs, how to measure a house without actually being there, using Google Earth, how to market on Facebook for it, how to yard signs is your number one way you're going to get customers. It doesn't have to be creative. In fact, the less creative, the better. You just put Christmas light installers, your phone number, and you could buy those signs for $3 or $4 and put. I mean, there's 2 guys I know that did $200,000 their very first year installing Christmas lights, which do not think you're going to do 200,000 your first year. These like are mind boggling. But both guys I know that did over 200,000 their very first year, they both put out over 800 yard signs that year saying Christmas light installers and a phone number. So they would put them up like once a week. After the city takes them down, they throw them back up. But that's your cheapest form of advertisement. But that's there. I'm just throwing out all these different ways you can get into Christmas light install. But I'm saying most people that watch your videos, they have more than enough knowledge how to install Christmas lights. They just don't know how to get customers. And so all they got to do is put pictures of their work out on social media and put it out on TikTok and tag their city and put it out in the community forums on Facebook. And do not try to sell your service. Just put pictures. What do you think about how you like? Is it too early to be decorating? Or what do you think? Like some people say, you're not supposed to put a Christmas light. I'm putting up Christmas lights before Halloween. What do you think? And people are going to blast you like, it's not even Halloween. But you're soft selling, and people are like, hey man, I want that on my house. So.
Okay. That's great. That's great. Yeah. There's gotta be. So there's only me and there's David from Learn Christmas Lighting that are in front of camera. We do weekly shows. I'm trying to grow that number. I'm teaching. I don't know if you're going to be in it, but I'm teaching at the virtual Christmas summit that's coming up here in a few weeks. I just taught the expo. But I'm trying to grow our community. But there's got to be somebody out there who's got a Christmas channel and it just parlayed that. Hey, the guy hanging up my lights, that's the guy over on. It's that house on Hollybrook. That guy's hanging up my lights. That's an excellent free advertisement into making money, I think.
Yeah, I just by posting pictures of your work or videos. Honestly, Facebook now is really videos of your work, short 30-second videos or less, making a reel that, and then people are going to comment in your own local area if they know you hang lights on your house.
And Missy's asking you, do you provide the lights and setup or take down, or does the customer provide them? We've mentioned that before, but she's tuning in late.
Yeah, just do not hang up a customer's lights just because I'm trying to save you a bunch of headaches. Ask me how I know, because I've been there and done that many times. And you're sitting there on a ladder and like the icicles are coming off because they stick to your clothes because they're like all these spiky icicles I've never seen before. And I'm just dangling trying to get the last little spot on the roof, and then like the whole light, a third of it goes out because it's got this weird snowflake. But anyway, they were brand new, but it's still. I just bring out professional grade lights where you don't have to worry about that kind of stuff.
And I love that you're using professional grade instead of commercial grade. Professional grade just sounds better and more legit. I like that. I'm gonna borrow that term.
So and to be honest, professional grade is going to be cheaper than what you're going to buy at the big box stores anyways. It's going to be either close to the same price or slightly cheaper. You just have to wait to get it shipped to you. Very rare. There is some local stores that sometimes do sell it, but in general, almost all the stuff in the big box stores ends up costing, a lot of the LED especially ends up costing more. And you can't even customize it. And if one light goes out, like a third of the strand goes out, and there's no way to fix it. So if you have extra light, you got to put it, duct tape around, put it in the gutter so people don't know. And then when it rains, it goes out. But it's better just buy customizable lights that you can cut the exact dimension of that roof.
And Misty's asking another question I've not thought to ask. Have you ever been hired to do apartment complexes?
Oh yes, we definitely get some requests. Apartment complexes are not as big, but you'll get more like strip malls or like especially restaurants. Anything that can draw, and a good sales pitch. You can show up. You can just download some of the stuff online, but it's proven that Christmas lights on the outside of a business brings in more foot traffic than not. So there's all these studies you can send them. So it's a good sales pitch for them.
Do you ever add for difficulty? Do you ever add for cost for that?
Yeah. So I personally, when we have a house that's like 1 story, 8 foot up, like I have a certain price point that I'll give on that house. Like I'll do that for $400 or $500. Look, if I was myself, I would do it for probably $200 or $300. That's how I started my company, and you'll have no shortage of work. But when you start getting so busy and you have to send employees, like you got to send at least 2 people with a truck and a ladder. So, but I will do those for $400 or $500, and I'll send some college students because I don't have to worry about them. They could be on an A-frame ladder. I don't have to worry about the dangers, difficulty of it. But if it's a more difficult house and I'm going to use big ladders on, I'm definitely going to be charging $6 to $8 a foot. So, and that's going to be my $700 minimum. Sometimes I'll tell people I have $700 minimum, but they'll send me their house, and it will be like a little 1-story, 60 feet. And I was like, okay, we'll do it for $400, which still, I mean, it takes you 20 minutes for $400. It's worth it. But you just don't want to be doing difficult jobs for $99 because that's what you'll end up doing if you're a cheap guy.
Another great question. On average, what does an installer make? And I'm gonna add a subplot to that. So at first year, if you're taking it seriously, you have signs out and you have already have the equipment, and you're in it to make money. So what does an average installer make, and what does somebody who's gung ho make?
So it really depends on how much. So what, in my experience, what we have seen with the guys that we train, year one, they really doubt it. They don't think it's possible. They think it's too good to be true. But then they hear so many stories, so they kind of want to test the waters, and they do try to put a lot of effort because they want to make sure. And then they realize too late it's a real business, and they go all out too late. But they'll end up. We have guys all the time that will do anywhere from 5 to this. There's another guy that just the YouTube interview I did the week before or the week after, the guy that did 250,000 second year.
Yeah.
That guy did 14,000. His name is Alex Perry. He was a photographer, but he's getting out of photographer now. He just does Christmas lights because he wants the freedom of having 6 months off a year and only working 6 months doing Christmas lights. So, but his first year, he didn't really want to go full in. So he did 14,000 his first year. This is very typical. So people do like 5 to 15,000 their first year just because they don't really know. They don't. But so the next year he just sat there and thought about better systems, how to make it better. But he ended up doing over 100,000 his second year in the middle of a very small city. But he had everything planned all year long to try to go after it because he was a believer in year two. And so that's typically what we see is year one. What people do very often, they will triple or double or triple what they did year one just because they planned it all year and they know it's a real business and they're going all in. Most people don't get real full buy-in till year two. The first year, they just don't think it really can happen.
That's fair. You know, it's not something. And I do have a friend who hangs lights. I think he did 50,000 his first year. He's like, come hang lights with me. I'm like, no, I don't want to go hang lights. I'm already hanging lights. But I appreciate the offer. Come on, I'll give you $10 an hour. No, hell no for $10 an hour. What? Not gonna happen. So, but they do make money doing it. I gotta tell you that. He rented a one of those storage places to store the lights. I'm like, cool. If you don't have a place that's big enough, cool. But I told him, don't ask me to hang lights again. But you said September. I hang lights in September. What time for your business when you start hanging lights? Is it September?
So I start hanging lights in September. If this is your first year hanging lights professionally for like money, I would not plan on finding customers until October because people are not, unless you're hanging holiday lights. Some people that is getting bigger for Halloween. Then some guys do that in September. Some guys, when they're new, will do like advertise Halloween lights and put them up in September and October, and then come do a bulb change out and swap it out to Christmas lights the day after Halloween. Wow. But I don't have time for that. I'm so busy. Like I just put up Christmas lights starting in September, but that took me years to get there. If you can start hanging lights in October, you're doing really well. Now, if you are listening to this and you want to start hanging lights in October, you can't just throw this together in October. You need to start planning now. I would like in September, at least practice doing professional lights on your own house. Buy like a starter pack, a 250 foot or something. Find out the difference between, you'll find out it's way easier than light shows, but do your own house, take some videos, some pictures of it. And then you can use that as advertisement when it gets into October around Halloween. You can start advertising it. But the number one way you're going to get jobs is if you can get a GMB up, a Google My Business, get registered on Google with a Christmas light business, and you will get a ton of phone calls starting in October just from being on Google as having a map on Google Maps saying that you're a Christmas light company.
And I imagine this is part of the training that you talk about this in your training, but Ben's asking, where do you get your lights from?
So we are wholesalers, but we buy them from China and then we sell them on our site. Now we also mostly only sell name brand stuff that's very recognized. And the reason why is I used to buy directly from a lot of different factories in China, But if you're running a professional Christmas light company, you want your when you're renting out your lights or leasing or offering a home service to, you want your inventory is very important to you. You don't want it to have repairs through the season. When you install the lights, you don't want to get a call back till you're taking them down in January. So I used to be able to buy bulbs a little bit cheaper directly from different factories in China. But then I find out like a year or two later, they're burning out just like incandescent. And like, it's not worth saving 10 cents on a bulb to have burnouts. I got to go change. That's why I got out of incandescent. So I do buy, if you'll go on our website, you'll see we got like HBL, we got Minlian, we got some of the other brands. We S4, one wonderful bulb. But they cost a little more, but they're there. They've been around for a long time. And if they're not going to put out junk product because that would ruin their business. So, and the same thing, you don't want to put up junk product on a customer's house. It's a little bit cheaper because you don't want customers complaining about it afterwards. A colors match. You want color consistency. You want the bulbs to match every year. You don't want a different warm white from one factory. The next year they change warm white to a total different color the next year, which definitely happens if you're not using a name brand.
Yes. What are some stores? Well, you need to go to. He's asking what are some stores you get professional grade lights at? I'm gonna tell you, it's ChristmasLightContractorsUSA.com.
Yeah. If you go to Christmas Icon, that is our business. It does support us. But also most everything, we get factories trying to get us to sell their stuff on our site all the time. And it's like, if it's not a professional grade stuff, we're probably not going to put it on our site. Like we try to only work with people that are professional installers. So most anything we sell is going to be professional grade, something that an installer is not going to be have problems with when they put on the house. Like the mini lights we sell on our website are probably as cheap as what you're going to find in the big box stores. But the difference is they're injection molded. So when you go to big box store, I used to go to Walmart and buy my lights in there. I'd buy them by literally by cases and cases and cases. And then when it would rain, I'd turn my phone off because it was just a nightmare. Everyone's lights are all going out. So now I buy 5mm injection molded. So the lights are actually injection molded into the casing. So when it rains, it's not tripping GFI. I'm not saying we never have cobwebs, but since I started switching to injection molded LEDs for my minis, we probably get less than 1% or 1% or less of our houses that have GFI problems. So I personally installed about over 300 houses last year for my install business. And when it rained, it was by the end of the year, it was probably less than one or maybe 2 or 3 customers that would have problems when the GFI goes out, but most everyone else we were able to fix.
Chad's asking, when does the customer pay? Do they pay up front? Do they pay half now, half later? What does the customer pay?
So, okay, especially if you're charging prices like we do, which we recommend. I used to never have to worry about this back when I was doing jobs. My average install used to be my very first year in business. I think I did 29 jobs for my average ticket was $320 or something. Back then, I didn't have to worry about taking deposits from the customer. Now I would because I needed it to go buy the lights. But that's the only reason I charged deposit. Well, then for a few years, I didn't charge deposits anymore because like I was thinking of the big shot is like, hey, I don't need your money. I can just hire me, and then they'd pay me. Well, as I started to raise my prices and I started to go past $4 and $5 a foot for the roof line, I started to charge deposits. Not at first, but what I realized is when I was charging $4 and $5 a foot, now I'm like $7 or $8 a foot. But when I was charging those prices, it was very common. I'd go there to do the install and lights were already up because a neighborhood kid was in the neighborhood installing lights for $99 or $100 or $200, whatever.
Okay.
And so they're like, well, I would hire you, Fred, but this other guy came through and he was like half the price as you. But once you get a deposit from them, whether it's 25% or 30% or 50%, whatever you want to do, it kind of takes it off the plate where they're not even entertaining ideas of finding out someone potentially might be cheaper.
Fair enough. Now, one thing I'm excited about is I'm excited to announce that I'm your newest affiliate.
That's right.
How awesome is that?
So if you buy through him, he does get it does help him put a little coffee in the cup.
What's that? Right there. Christmas Light Contractors.
So if you click his link, you're supporting his business, you're supporting his light show, and it also supports us. We're a community of installers, and we actually do take your ideas as installers. If you come up with an idea like this, and it is a big enough idea where we feel it will help enough people, we will take it to the factory and we'll see if we can. There's another guy who just came up with me to an idea. I can't say what it is right now, but I was like, if you do it, I'll have them put your name on the patent. If it's a big enough idea, I think that a lot of people will use it. We'll help you. We'll get you in touch with the factories. Now, they're not as involved with light shows because, to be honest, light shows are pretty techy. and it's a smaller audience of people that really get into it and really nerd out into it. That's what I'm saying. You do not have to understand lights very well to run a professional Christmas light installation company.
So it's was it August 5th right now when we're making this video, this interview. Is it too late for people to get on board for this year to make money?
Oh, no. This is prime time that people start thinking about it. We have our biggest training of the year coming up at the Huge here in that's going to be in Nashville, Tennessee. I think we got 70 or 80 people already signed up for that. And we got one of our speakers. He does over $5 million a year. He's younger than me, and he does $5 million a year just installing Christmas lights commercially.
For him.
He does big installs. And we got other guys. Like, I'm going to be there speaking. A lot of guys that just newer guys that they're just teaching people how to get to their first 6 figures doing Christmas lights. That's what the goal is. Now, your first year, it's very difficult to get to 6 figures your first year, but I would say it's very common for people that do Christmas lights and they make it their goal for them to be able to get to 6 figures. It is very achievable. Now, that doesn't mean that's what you're actually profiting, but a good goal is to try to shoot for 6 figures at some point. Within 6 weeks is a slogan that a lot of people are saying, because if you can install $100,000 worth of lights in 6 weeks, that means the first year you're buying for all the lights and stuff, but the next year you're not buying lights again. You're just hanging the lights again.
Yeah.
So I know a guy right now. He's an air traffic controller. He makes like $300,000 a year, but he's been doing Christmas lights for 20 or 30 years, and he takes 2 weeks vacation and he literally installs $100,000 worth of lights in 2 weeks all by himself.
For him.
But that's what he does. His vacation is to go hang lights.
See, Bill Parrish. What's up, Bill Parrish? He's asking. He's made bridges for the last 40 years. Considering an install company when I retire, what's a recommended dollar amount he needs to start up?
The materials are pretty low. Like we said on our website, we get tired of explaining to people what they need to buy to do a roof line. So we actually invented the starter pack. It actually has 1,000 feet of roof lights, 1,000 feet of custom wire or C9 socket wire, 1,000 bulbs, 1,000 clips, or at least 1,000 feet of it. Sometimes 15 or 12-inch spacing. But then it's got plugs, 25 male, female plugs, and it's got extension wires. Got a timer, I think. But anyway, everything's so that you can get on a job and be confident. You can get the roof line done without having to call a supplier and get them to overnight you some material, which is very common before we came up with the starter pack, because it's not normal terminology for people that aren't familiar with professional installs. But once you order starter pack, once you'll understand. But so I would start off with a starter pack. And then you're going to need a pole, one of those light poles for trees. If all you want to do is the roof, you're going to have a tough time. Because some people absolutely want their bushes and trees done. You're going to lose a lot of customers if you don't provide that. But you're going to need probably at least a fold-up ladder, like a grill ladder. I know there's a guy I interviewed, Steve Hunsaker. You can see his interview. He did $120,000 his first year out of a hatchback and a fold-up ladder. But he had him. Yeah, incredible. I don't even know how it's possible, but he did it. He's very active. He tells everyone, the whole world about it. Now he's doing over $500,000 a year on Christmas lights down in Phoenix. But anyways, you're going to need a pole, a painter's pole with a hook. That's like $50. You're probably going to need either a pitch hopper or a goat hook. The goat hook helps you get safely up to the top of the roof. Like I don't have one with me, but you can look them up online. But those ones, they're pretty priced, like $400 or $500. And I would definitely get Cougar Paws. It helps you walk around on the roof a little safer. It's like sponges on the bottom shoes. Those are like $150. You're going to need probably a drill in order to either put up a wreath in wood. You're going to have to put a screw, or you're going to need to put in the concrete to drill inside a brick. You're going to need to put a little anchor there. A hot glue gun. I would definitely get a hot glue gun, like a Ryobi cordless one. And that's going to run you $40, $50. Besides that, and then you're going to need a needle nose pliers or perhaps a Leatherman. And then if they want customizable lights, you'll have to buy them as needed. But yeah, I think for under $2,000, you could get, maybe $3,000. You should have enough setup to get you going. I would think $3,000, because you're going to need to buy the ladder. That's going to be a little bit.
Good question, Bill. Brian's asking, do you decorate your own home? And if so, do you just like doing it now that you decorate so many homes?
We do. If you go on my YouTube channel, you'll see I actually do my wife's house and we do it up. I actually pay my installers to put up. I actually didn't for a lot of years. I resented it because I was like, man, I'm not putting up lights in my own house. And I do lights, like I tell I'm just dizzy, like doing lights all the time. But my wife, she was not having it. So we do a really nice install in our house every year. but I'm not the one that's really doing it. So now my house looks like a lab year round. I'm always trying new products and doing installs on my own house with new items, but then I take them down and put them back up, take them down. Around Christmas season, I actually put a professional install on my house.
So we're gonna have to have you back for a part 2 because I got questions coming in left and right. So what I got going on tonight, a lot of folks know that I'm on the board of directors for League 42. We have our Jackie Robinson thing we made national news for, got stolen. It's getting installed tonight. I got to go have dinner tonight with Joe Torre and CC Sabathia. So I got to leave here in like 30 minutes. So we're going to take this one last question here right quick. What drill do you recommend?
So because I like to have everything the same, I'm not saying it's the best, but I do a Ryobi hot glue gun and a Ryobi drill just so I have the same battery. I can move around to all my different things. I would definitely use a cordless hot glue gun. You definitely need that. It helps for a lot of stuff on installs.
Well, we're gonna have to set up a part 2 and have you back here because the questions are coming in fast and furious. But thank you so much for coming on for the interview, and thank you for inviting to be your newest affiliate.
Oh, thanks for having us. I think you guys have no idea how smart you guys are, and you guys could easily start your own business doing this. So don't be scared.
Well, hang out in the green room for me 1 second. Let me talk to these folks real quick. Hey, folks, we're going to have an affiliate show coming up here in about 3 weeks, maybe 2, where I'm going to go with you all the affiliates that I have, including Fred Zimmerman. Fun fact, the Ho hats have sold out. The Ho 3, the Christmas mats. But you know what? The new shipment comes in tomorrow. If you want the same hat I do, there's the QR code, and you can get yourself a Christmas math hat. But next week, we have from Digital Pressworks. We got Matt coming on to talk all things projection mapping. We're definitely going to have to get Fred back here for another video. That's about it for me today, guys. I'm Charlie, and I'll see you in the next video. Christmas Light Contractors USA. We're affiliates. How awesome is that? Bye, guys.